Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Invincible After Show, brought to you by Agents of Fandom. This week, I am your host, TJ AKA Fat Thor, and I am joined by my two wonderful co-hosts, starting off with Sean Mott from Collider and Metalcore Nerds, and most recently, a fellow agent of Agents of Fandom. Sean, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. I'm ready to talk about this packed episode. I feel like we're going to say that every week, but it's true. So much went down in this episode. And one of my favorite Invincible tropes is thinking the episode ends like halfway through the episode and they're like, nope, here's a whole nother section. Love it.
Yeah, it's basically like two episodes in one. At least that's how I like, almost completely separate episodes. And we are also joined, of course, by our leader, editor-in-chief, TJ Zwarych. TJ, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing so well. I'm going to see Captain America Brave New World later today, as is my other co-host for the Agents Fandom podcast, Damon Gray. He's going soon as well. And later tonight, 8 p.m. Pacific time, 11 p.m. Eastern time, we're going live with author of MCU, The Reign of Marvel Studios, Dave Gonzalez, to talk about and give our immediate reactions to Captain America Brave New World. Hopefully, I believe Aaron Perrine from Phase Hero is joining us as well, but still just waiting to hear back on final confirmation. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that one. And I'm going to be honest, I am so thrilled to be on a podcast where I'm not the host and I can just chill and let someone else take the lead and give my thoughts. I'm so excited about it, and I'm ready to dive in with you guys.
Dude, I know that's how I feel on the comic corner with Damon, because Damon luckily heads a lot of that stuff. And like you said, it's like, oh, I don't have to host. This is so nice. Shout out to Damon. Check us out on Comic Corner. But we have so much to talk about. Like Sean said, this was a pretty packed episode. So I want to start off with, typical. I want you guys' thoughts. Sean, we already heard a little bit of what you think, so I'll throw it off to Teach first. What did you think of episode 4? Did it live up to your expectations of the first 3 episodes?
It did. I actually think it started to exceed my expectations from the first 3 episodes. Like, I was a little bit weaker, a little bit lower on the first 3 episodes than Sean last week, than our guest Rachel as well. But I did think this season really progresses as it goes. And I think episode 4 for me was really when things started picking up in a big way. Like, we get some teases at the end of season 3. I love how much Adam Eve we're getting in this season so far, but I thought the pacing was really weird in the first 3 episodes, and just the way certain conflicts escalated so fast. Now, admittedly, when I went and rewatched the second time, it did feel a lot more cohesive to me than the first time. But I thought, it was just the first 3 episodes, dare I say it, were just very good. They weren't phenomenal. They weren't spectacular. They were just very, very good. And I know that sounds harsh.
I know, but, dude. Geez, harsh criticism
was really when things stepped up, picked up the pace, got to the level of Invincible that I feel like I am used to and that I love. And it was back to spectacular, back to phenomenal.
See, the Mahler twins did that for me with Oliver, that freaking little psycho. But Sean, what else do you have to say about this episode? Like I said, you already gave your thoughts a little bit, but again, compared to the first 3, the kind of premiere episodes, do you agree with Tej? Did this really kind of hit the gas for you?
Yeah, I mean, I really liked the first 3 episodes, but I think episode 4 is where the season really kind of hits its stride and really kind of lays the land for what's to come in season 3, I think. And to echo what TJ said, I love the Mark Eve stuff. It's so great. I've heard for pretty much since the series started that Adam Eve and Mark are like the greatest couple in comics history. So to see the start of that finally happen in this show is so great. And I feel like they timed this perfectly, because this episode comes out the day before Valentine's Day, and we get to see this beautiful globe trotting date between the two. But I mean, obviously something pretty dark happens before it, but most importantly, in this episode. We get the return of the MVP of Invincible, Alan the Alien, which is always great for me. And the return of Battle Beast. This season is kind of taking a lot of season 1 plot threads that have kind of been just waiting in the wings and bringing them back. There's another one from season 1 that comes back in season 3. I think it's the next episode or the episode after. I can't remember. Time is irrelevant, but it's cool to see. I'm not gonna say what it is. I'm just saying it's cool to see some plot threads come back from
Say
season
no
1.
spoilers here. That's Paul's channel. We're not getting into the spoilers here yet. But I mean, I gotta echo both you guys. I really loved this episode too. Again, there's so much jam packed in it. And one thing I'm really glad you guys brought up, which we'll talk about more in a little bit here, is Adam Eve, because I really love her role in this show. And it's not necessarily like very different from the comics, but she's just a lot more involved, like a lot more engaged in like with her and Mark and their relationship. So I really love how they're portraying her. But let's get into some of the nitty gritty stuff. First thing I want to talk about,
On
which
that
is
note, you'll be happy to Invincible fans will be happy to know as well. This article should drop any day now up on agentsofandom.com, but you can also check out my full interview with creator Robert Kirkman and showrunner Simon Rasiopa up on the Agents of Fandom YouTube page. And I asked him, look, we love Adam Eve. We're happy there's more of her in season 3. We've gotten this special episode in the past of her like kind of prequel life. We've gotten a video game. Is there more Adam Eve content coming outside of just her regular role in the series? And he gave me a really good answer. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You can check out the interview. You can wait for the article. The interview right now is on the YouTube page, so go check it out.
watch it for that.
But I'd say good news.
We don't give everything away for free.
Good news for Adam.
And I love that too, because I love that because, like, at least from the comics, like she has her origin issue, which is what like her special basically was. But other than that, her story really is just kind of related to Invincible and, you know, Mark and all that. So I'm very interested to see if they're going to do more Adam Eve content, what avenue they would go with that. But I also want to say, before we get into some of the nitty-gritty stuff, anyone watching at home, please give us your thoughts in the comments. Let us know what you think of all these things that we're talking about. Some theories. We love theories here. But we got to start with Rex and Shrinking Ray, because this is something that's completely new for the show. In the comics, Shrinking Ray just dies when he's eaten by Komodo dragon. Never comes back. So all of this, you know, relationship stuff with Rex is completely new territory. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on that. We saw this on maybe episode 2 or 3 as well, them kind of setting this relationship up. And what do you guys think of Rex and Shrinking Ray? Are you liking that, or it's like kind of background plot for you? Sean, I'll throw it off to you first.
No, I'm liking it. It kind of adds to this redemption and growth we're seeing with Rex Splode, which has been one of the welcome surprises of the series, in my opinion, because he starts off as such like a dick, and so it's nice to see him to continue to grow. And the addition of Shrinking Ray being totally different from the comics, I think, is just another example. We talked about this a lot with last season of how Kirkman just takes the series an opportunity to only better his work. And I think it's a really cool addition, and the addition of them kind of giving a grounded perspective to being a superhero, of how Shrinking Ray was like raised pretty much like almost like she was raised in the boys universe. There's like a lot of similarities to like her and Starlight, you know, where she was like trained under a food regimen, all this stuff, like bred to be a superhero. And Rex kind of had a way different kind of episode. And I know Kirkman has mentioned a cool spin-off idea could be Rex Splode, which I would actually like. The hints they've given, I think, would be a really interesting origin to see fully in as like a one-off or in an episode or whatever. So I'm really liking it, and I really like how, you know, they don't know how to cook, and you know, it's just these like weird things that make them a little bit more relatable. It's almost like a kid when you go off to college and you know nothing about life or how to cook or anything, and you're kind of just left to your own devices, except they have superpowers and try to save the world, you know.
Yeah, and I mean they were on team, like literally it's obviously kids.
Right.
So like you were saying, they're just superheroes all the time, which is something else you don't really get too much of in the book, is seeing them just trying to be like people and not superheroes.
Mm.
But TJ, what do you think about Rex and Shrinking Ray and like this new relationship? Where do you think it's gonna go?
I won't speculate too much on where it's going to go because I can't remember what I was thinking at this point in the story, and I have seen through episode 6, not the whole season, but through episode 6. And so I don't want to speculate too much, but I will admit I don't really care too much. I'm not overly invested in this storyline. What I do like about it is we're, like you guys both mentioned, we're starting to see a bit of a different side of Rex Splode. And to me, almost any Jason Mantzoukas character is like fits in the same box, basically. And he does an incredible job of acting and voice acting, but he's kind of always just like the crazy guy. And so getting to see this more developed, more mature version of Rex Splode, it's really enjoyable to see a different side of Jason Mantzoukas' role. And so I am interested in that side of it. And as Sean mentioned, like Kirkman likes the idea of a Rex Splode spinoff. We talked about that in our interview. And Simon Rasiopa talks about a potential Immortal spinoff, who also heavily featured in this episode.
I mean, he's got a lot of history to go through. That could be multiple season show, but I would love to see an origin episode for all of the Guardians characters. Which is again something they did in the comics. So if they just gave us specials for everyone's origin, I would eat that up. I would love that so much. But yeah, again, echo everything you guys say. It's not my favorite storyline. Like, for me, it's kind of like a background thing. But to me, Rex Splode has like one of the best character arcs / redemptions in like comics. Like it's really great how they play it. And to me, this new relationship just kind of really highlights those points. Like, so it's not necessarily different. It just, I feel like, furthers home the point of, like I said, this progression of the character. Like Sean, you were saying, he started off as not a very likable guy. So I think it just helps to bring us more around to like, oh, Rex isn't too bad, But then, so after that, I didn't know if anyone else had anything to say about that. But we get obviously Adam, Eve, and Mark going on a little date. Again, kind of emphasizing these kids and or superheroes trying to have relatively normal lives, but they just cannot do that. And then we get the return of the time travel twins that we saw in previous episode, who stole the Declaration of Independence, voiced by the dude who played Blue Beetle, Zolo.
Zolo Maridueña. Also, the finale of Cobra Kai came out today. And Zolo's obviously heavily featured in that one too. So big day for Zolo.
Big day.
Yeah, hell yeah. We love to see it. I loved him in Blue Beetle. I can't wait to see more of him. But I really loved him as the Travel Twins. This comes from issue number 54 of Invincible, which is one of my favorite issues. It's plays out almost exactly the same, and the twins are just such fun characters. So I want to just get your guys' thoughts. What do you think of Zolo as the twins, and just their whole vibe? They just got a fun not fun because the future is really, really bleak. But what do you guys think about the twins coming back? TJ, I'll throw it off to you first.
I love it. I think Zolo is a super talented voice actor and just actor in general. Everything I see him in, I like him in, and I think he's got some range. He can fight. He can show like he can play a confident role. He can play an emotional role. He can play kind of like a, very passive at the start of Blue Beetle until he gets his confidence at the end. I think he's a really strong actor. And I was happy to see the twins back because anytime somebody's stealing the Declaration of Independence, it gets me fired up and it makes me want to watch National Treasure. And it's a fun little storyline, I think, it felt very important for where Mark is in his story in terms of character growth to bring him into this spot and have him go through this. And at the same time, it was a fun little side quest. I mean, not, fun, like very, very devastating.
So fun, dude.
But
It's so fun.
Exciting side quest that also I think was really important for Mark's growth, and we also got to see a lot between Mark and Eve in this episode. So it was, to me, this was so beautifully balanced to have the Mark and Eve stuff, to have the side quest stuff, and then at the end of the episode have some very serious plot advancement as well.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite part of this episode, like coming from the comic perspective, is again, it's very much almost exactly the same, but in the book, it really does feel like a side adventure, but I think the show did a really good job with it being a side adventure, but also really tying into, like you were saying, where Mark is in the story right now. I mean, we are still very fresh off of him killing Levy, and like that really kind of messed him up. So to be put in this new situation with Immortal, which we'll get to in a second, really, I think, again, just kind of emphasizes that same theme, but just a lot more in your face and like really showing Mark's inner struggle, which plays a very big role into this story. But Sean, what did you think of time travel twins coming back? And not only that, but moving forward just a little bit, the bleak future that they go to when they kind of kidnap Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I love the time travel twins. I think they're great. And to echo what TJ said, I love Zolo as well. When I fell in love with Cobra Kai, when I made the jump from YouTube to Netflix, from then I was like, I want to see this kid in more stuff, and I'm getting my wish granted. And the dude deserves it more than most. Like, he's just amazing. And yeah, go watch the finale of Cobra Kai because he is fantastic in it. Has some of my favorite scenes in the entire series in those last chunk of episodes. It's good stuff. But the big thing with time travel, and in this series especially, is we don't really know how time travel works in this universe. We know there's a multiverse, and there's a big kind of statement said after this whole thing with Immortal happens, where Eve says, that's not our future, at least not anymore, which could be very true, but it also could not be true. And that's what's terrifying. We don't know. It seems like it's very far in the future, at least from what the Immortal says and everything, but it definitely sets up some very big implications for the future of this series that I'm excited we'll get to explore eventually. As I mentioned, TJ knows this, both TJs knows now, but last week I mentioned I've only read probably somewhat into like season 2 of the comics, so I don't really know. I've heard some stuff watching some videos or whatever, but as far as this, like, I know nothing of what's to come with any of time travel stuff with Mark, or how this past stuff will affect the future or anything. Like, I have no idea how any of that works within this universe. I'm very interested to learn about it, but at this point, no idea. So I'm very curious on the implications of that. And is what Eve said true? You know, I don't know. It could be, it could not be. And it's very interesting to see that, like, it makes me think it's not, because they said Invincible was the ruler of this world, and I know they made a big point of last season of, in every other universe, the Invincible of that world joins the Omni-Man in the conquest of Earth. So, and this Mark is different, a special kind of Mark. So it makes me think it's not this version of Mark, but I know we're still very not that far into the series at all, so I don't really know, and things only get darker as we go. So I can definitely see him making some tough choices like he had to in this episode. And I don't know where that road leads. And it could be a very dark, scary road. Kind of what TJ and I said last week. I'm a little scared.
Yeah, it is. It honestly is a little scary. This isn't really a spoiler, but I'll say Invincible is filled with impossible choices and tragic outcomes. And that's like a very major theme in both the show and the comics. So again, you should be a little scared. But one point I want to talk about,
that Alan the Alien and Omni-Man aren't going to come to Earth, join up with Mark. Everything's going to be good. They're going to kick all the Viltrumites' asses and live happily ever after.
Well, I guess you'll just have to tune in to season 4, 5, 6, and whatever 10, however many we get to find out. But one point, Sean, you mentioned this. We don't, like you said, we don't get an exact time of like how far in the future this is. But one clue that I did notice is the twins don't even know what a Viltrumite is. So that leads me to believe like it is very, very far into the future if they have no idea what that even is. And really quickly before we get to Immortal, I just want to emphasize one point. Shout out to Paul from Heavy Spoilers and his breakdown that I thought was really great is Mark is kidnapped by the like he doesn't go willingly to the future, whereas in the book he does go with them, and it like annoys Eve. Like she's annoyed that he leaves their date to go on this little adventure, and it just kind of furthers that point we talked about you know these people that are superheroes trying to have a regular life but can't and are always going to be pulled into some sort of tragedy or adventure. But we've talked about this a little bit already, so let's get into the real meat of this episode, and that is we find out that the ruler of this dystopian future is the Immortal, who we know we love from the Guardians of the Globe, but things did not go very well for him in the past 1,100 years or whatever into the future that we get. So before we get into some of the things that he talks about, not having read the comics, what were your guys's just kind of reaction to seeing that it was Immortal, and then also the kind of very emotional angle that he has of, you know, everyone that he knows is dead, long dead. Sean, I'll throw this one off to you first.
It's brutal, and it does echo what Omni-Man says in season 1, which is something he says that I don't think he truly believes at this point, is that he's like, you shouldn't care about anyone because everyone you fall in love with is going to die before you even have a chance to die. And it does kind of get echoed in Oliver in this season, which has been a very interesting question. And I did see that this episode kind of illustrated more of what happened in this world than the comics do, with like Immortal and how he like took over or like came to be the leader of the world and stuff like that, which I thought was really cool. And in a heartbreaking line, when Mark brings up Kate in Immortal, it's been so long since that he doesn't even remember who she is. Brutal, dude. And it's just so sad. Like the whole thing is sad. Like it's just so depressing, and he just like wants Mark to kill him, and he's not stopping until he does. And it's I will say, like, it almost like escalated very quickly, but not in a way that it felt rushed. You're just like, wow, you're here from trying to like talk this guy off a proverbial ledge, so to speak, to being like, he just ripped his head off. You're just like, oh, okay. That
really went up to 10 quick. But I love that line about Kate too. Like that's also in the comic, but I think in the show it's again a lot more impactful because we just saw them get engaged and like they're like the Guardians are celebrating and all that. But TJ, what did you think about the reveal that it was Immortal? And again, like Sean talked about, seeing him have this kind of very drastic change and this hostile takeover of Earth.
I thought it was super cool because like it makes sense that he'd still be there, right? We've seen him go through some shit. We know he's been around for so long, and got to shout out our friend Ross Marquand for doing just an absolutely incredible job voice acting this episode as the Immortal, of truly just portraying a broken man. It reminded me a little bit of the Mad Weary from Eternals a little bit, where it's like somebody who has just been alive for so long that their memories start blending together. They can't remember where they are, when they're from, who is from what year, just because their mind wasn't meant for them to be around that long. And it's just tough to see. I mean, not tough to see him go through that, because I have no emotional attachment to the Immortal as a character, really. I don't, other than like Mark, Eve, and Debbie, I don't really care like too much about like what happens to anybody. I'll just be like, crazy invincible shit, you know? But still, just in the moment, I think Ross does such a great job with his voice acting with that character to make me invested in the moment and just feel that pain, feel that like he's just truly gone mad and he has nothing left to live for and doesn't remember why he's doing anything, doesn't remember what side of the line he's supposed to be on, what even the line is, because he's just gone into this dark place. So I thought it was a like we kind of talked about at the beginning, not necessarily fun, but a really thrilling side quest for Mark to go on here.
100%. And I think to your point too, like it's not even just that it happened to Immortal specifically. I think it's just the idea of that situation, I think, is enough to make anyone just like, it's just like you guys said, it's just so sad. And like, especially with all the other stuff he talks about and just seeing how far it was, you know, he was pushed to this point. And so we got to get to probably the biggest part of this episode that everyone is theorizing. It says right here in the title, theories. So I'm going to shut up in this part because I don't want to say anything. But for you guys with Immortals, so
here I am saying like a fool, like a damn fool, like 15 minutes ago. You know, I don't want to speculate on that because I've seen the next 2 episodes,
right?
So I know a lot. And here's Fat Thor. He's like, yeah. So since I've read every comic book multiple times, dude, I'm not going to speculate on this.
I think I'm not even kidding.
What I said was before.
I'm not even kidding. I think like in the past couple weeks, I've read Invincible like 4 times, like just going through. So again, I'm going to shut up in this. Hey, we won't talk about that right now, Sean. But I do my homework, man. That's one thing you can count on me for. I do my homework. But so Immortal has a lot to say to Mark when he's basically trying to get him to kill him and they start fighting. And he has a lot to say about things in the future and asks Mark a lot of questions, such as, I forget the exact lines, but like something about a sickness, about him leaving Earth to and left Immortal in charge of everything, and how he is lucky because something about his family or whatever. So again, I'm going to shut up, but I want to throw it off to you guys. Did any of what of that really piqued your guys' interest? What do you think any of that could mean? And do you think any of that is something we could see in this 3rd season, or is it, far along the way? TJ, I'll throw it off to you first.
I think we may, I'll never rule out seeing multiversal things happen of like different Marks doing crazy things. But without knowing anything of what happens in the future, and this may prove to be the most ridiculous thing ever, this maybe put it on freezing cold takes sometime in the future. But I truly believe Mark will be staying on the right side of things, no matter how crazy things get throughout this series, because I think there kind of has to be at least one constant. And so, maybe if Mark goes crazy in an arc, it's because Omni-Man is the constant good trying to pull him back. I don't know. But I just kind of think Mark, for the most part, is going to stay on the line of, for the people, for the innocent people. And when I think about potential futures, for the most part, I think of Adam Eve coming back to Mark last season and being like, tell her you love her or tell her you don't, so she can move on. I have to imagine then at this point, most of these futures, Mark and Eve never got together. For them, like, I'm sure in some they did, but it seems like for a lot they don't. And from what I understand about Adam Eve, is that eventually, I don't know this for a fact, I have not read the series, but I just, from what I've heard from friends who are big fans of the show or of the books, my understanding is that one day Adam Eve is basically going to be just as powerful in a different way as Mark is. And so I think having her with him is probably going to help hold him off of making some bad decisions in the future and help him through his trauma, so he's not going through these things alone anymore.
That's a really good point, and that's kind of, we talked about the kind of differences of Adam Eve in the show, and to me that is a huge one. Is so, and for example, when Mark comes back from the future, he tells Eve what happened. He tells her about Immortal. In the book, he does not tell her. So I think that again just kind of
Oh,
shows how their relationship is a lot more transparent. Like she is a lot more of like she has a lot more I don't know what the word is. She again more in charge in the relationship than just kind of Mark always taking charge and dealing with everything alone. So
And I love that because there are enough multiple different plot lines going on at once and enough crazy drama and thrilling stakes in this series. You don't need to add more of it from miscommunication, from keeping secrets. You know,
yes.
like if you have a strong relationship, that's one of the things I hate the most is like when there's no other plot problem other than a miscommunication or somebody thinking one thing and another person just not telling the truth. And so they're upset at each other. Who gives a damn? You know, there's more important shit going on in this show. And so I like that they're not distancing them for the sake of distancing them, which, like, you know, I think it's, you guys talk about this all the time in the comic corner, that the one good Spider-Man, Peter Parker Spider-Man comic book out there right now is Ultimate Spider-Man. And I think that's because the mainline universe one, they just seem to like making bad shit happen to him for the sake of making bad shit happen to him. And it just makes, to a point, if he's not handling situations the way we want Peter Parker to and expect Peter Parker to, just makes him less likable. And I think they're really doing a good job of avoiding that with Mark here.
100% agree. Sean, what do you think of, again, all these crazy things Immortal is saying? Did anything, again, really stand out to you? And also, again, going back to the Adam Eve of it all, do you think this future is one where Mark is with Eve and that she is going to be the one to keep him on the side of good? Or do you think that, again, there's something tragic in store for our wonderful power couple?
I will say I did watch to the end of Heavy Spiller's breakdown video, which did reveal some things about the future of possibly the show and the comics. So I do know what the sickness is he's talking about. So I'm not going to talk about that because I don't want to ruin it for anyone who doesn't know. But as far as the
Is that when
Adam
the
Eve and
Walking
Mark,
Dead universe collides with the Invincible universe?
we've already seen it
Yes.
happen in
Yeah.
the finale of season 2. What are you talking about? It already
True.
It's already been teased.
happened. It's already there. We already know it's there. But the
Ladies
Mark
and gentlemen,
Eve,
Marvel Zombie is coming later in 2025.
yes. I love Mark Eve. I actually just wrote an article about Mark Eve and them finally coming together and why it was better for them to wait and how them getting together is way less toxic than it is in the comics, because I know in the comics they like kiss while Mark and Amber are still together, and I like that they didn't do that in this. And to add to what you said, that they have a more honest and open relationship, because I feel like Eve being there for Mark is so important for him. Not because he doesn't have a support system, because obviously his mother is great and improved in the series than she is in the comic as well. And he has his best friend William and everything like that. He has people in his corner, but he doesn't have people who understand what it's like to be a hero and the weight that being a hero brings. And Adam Eve does. And now he has that. And obviously she's very understanding and very helpful and gives very good advice, so where he doesn't feel alone anymore. And he doesn't feel all the weight of everything on him anymore. And I think that's only going to make him a better hero and to serve the purpose of like protecting Earth and protecting the ones he loved as things get progressively crazier. Because I mean, as we all know collectively, because TJ and I have seen a little bit farther ahead. Obviously, TJ has read all the comics a billion times at this point. There's bad stuff coming, very bad stuff coming. And I think it's imperative that he has Eve in his corner to help him through that, because the dude's already been through so much and it's only going to get worse. So I do think there's tragic things on the horizon, but I don't particularly think they're between Mark and Eve, if that makes sense.
100%. I mean, that was a great analysis too, Sean, about their relationship and the weight of being a hero, because that is very much Mark's plight, and like especially what we see going on right now is, you know, where we had it, I think it's episode 1, where Cecil says like, oh well, you killed Angstrom Levy, so should I lock you up? Like that kind of moral question of being a hero and like the consequences is very important to Mark. And it goes really quickly because we got to get to Alan and Nolan again. There's a whole other half of this episode, but one line that's not in the comic that Immortal says that I really think emphasizes exactly what you're talking about, Sean, is he asks Mark, how many must die for your mistakes? And again, that's not something he says in the comic, so it was deliberately added to this kind of conversation, and I think that really just kind of encapsulates a lot of Invincible, and especially Mark's continue down this road of, like you said, there's bad stuff coming. Like, you know, every time you think one threat is gone, there's another one around the corner. So I wanted to bring that up, but again, we got to get to Alan and Omni-Man. Like Sean said, I agree with him. Alan is one of my favorite characters. I love anytime that we get to kind of take a little side story with them. And we see him and Alan and Omni-Man have like a tight broship now. We got that alluded to a little bit in the after credits of episode 1, but they just like they're homies now, and I love to see it. I loved the prison break. I love how like it's very chaotic it's a little bit more structured in the comics, where like Alan has a multi-step plan. And also big thing is Omni-Man is part of this plan in the book. So the change of like Alan is coming to save him just because they're friends and like he doesn't want to see him die, I thought was a really great addition to this whole thing. But TJ, what did you think of Alan and Omni-Man's prison break? And we'll talk about the other great character that shows up in a minute.
I love it. For one, I do think Alan and Omni-Man's relationship just really adds to the question of what does you have to do when you've done so many terrible things to be redeemed? What is being a good person? It's not just a math thing. If you save more people than you kill, it doesn't mean you're a good person. We've seen Omni-Man at his absolute worst. We've seen him in a new relationship on Thraxon. We've seen Thraxon, right? Yeah. I was like, is that the right alien planet? Did I get that? We have seen Oliver just have love for his dad and not understand the hatred. We see Alan now become good friends with him. It's so interesting to think of like, this is a terrible, terrible person who everybody should hate. But I get why all of these people don't. And it just adds such a interesting layer to the conversation with him. I thought the prison break was fucking awesome. I thought it was so damn cool. I love, like, I am such a sucker for a squad. I love a team up. I love a team up. And that's why I feel like in so many of these, like in these shows, no matter how crazy and terrible everything gets, as long as Mark and Debbie are good, as long as Mark and Eve are good. Not even just like, I don't mean just like, ooh, Goku almost fell on me here. I don't even just mean like safe, because I want there to be stakes. I want there to be danger, but I mean their relationship. I like when my squad is squatted up. I hate when they're the only conflict in the series or the show is the conflict between squad members. No, I always want my squad. Don't separate, keep them together. And so I absolutely love that we get a Alan the Alien, Omni-Man, Battle Beast team up, 3 of the strongest motherfuckers in the entire galaxy teaming up to take down some Viltrumites and some prisoners and some guards. I thought it was so damn cool.
Yeah, it's so Battle Beast is my favorite character. He is so great, and like I said, I just love how chaotic it is, like how the other prisoners like get in on the fight, but like just immediately get murked, and it's a fun, violent time. And like you said, I would take a whole separate series just of those 3, like going around doing stuff. Like, that's not something in the books, but I will just take a brand new thing of that because I love those three together. Sean, throwing the same question off to you. Prison Break, Battle Beast team up. I'll throw off to the next question too, and I'll throw it to you, TJ, after that. Battle Beast's introduction. We see him very briefly in episode, I think, like 3 or 4 of season 1, and that was it. And now he gets kind of his big showcase. So all that together, what were your thoughts, Sean? Did you love it? Did you hate it? I don't think that's possible, but
no, I
Sean's like, it was terrible. My worst part of the episode.
I loved Alan calling Battle Beast Mr. Beast. That was amazing. Or Sir Beast, is that what he said? You say Sir Beast or Mr. Beast? Either way, it was
something like that.
It was amazing. Just the weird interactions between the two, because he's like almost like Drax on steroids of how literal he is, and he's just great. And I love how he ends with him and a Viltrumite just fighting in space, and they just float off, and you don't even know the outcome. They're just like gone. And I hope that gets paid off in the future eventually, because I want more Battle Beasts selfishly.
I'm under the impression there's more Battle Beasts to come.
I would hope. That dude is great. Obviously, everyone loves him, and he just got his own comic, I know, and stuff. So I would imagine there's gonna be more Battle Beasts coming.
April 16th. Check out new Battle Beast comic coming from the Invincible creators too. So keep an eye. If you love Battle Beast, check that out for sure.
And isn't the whole Nolan saving Alan an added thing from the comics too?
Yeah,
and it adds more. That adds a lot more humanity to Nolan in Omni-Man that I like. And TJ is right. They're setting up this redemption arc pretty heavily, and I'm here for it. I just am so anxious to see the reaction of Earth people when he finally comes back to Earth, because I feel that's what they're leading to. They're leading to like a big Viltrumite battle on Earth, I would imagine. Again, I don't know, but that's what it feels like they're leading to. And seeing Omni-Man come back to Earth, I feel like has to be the most terrifying thing ever. That's like the worst dream come true. It's it's like Thanos.
Imagine you're just a citizen. Yeah, I would say, imagine you're just a regular citizen. You see that dude pulling up, you're shitting your britches. That's for damn sure. Yeah, goodbye.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the whole Alan the alien? He gets beat up, he almost dies, comebacks way stronger. Isn't that not from comics either? Isn't that new?
No, so that's in the comics, but it's kind of just like briefly. So when he gets wrecked by the Viltrumites in season 1, I think, in the book, it just kind of explains like, oh yeah, like Alan discovers that if he's close to death, he'll regenerate but stronger than before. But I think the show put a little bit more emphasis on that, which again I really enjoy. And like Sean mentioned, the scene of Omni-Man saving Nolan, that's completely new. And again, it's not necessarily different from the comics, because in the comics it just kind of we get kind of the flashbacks from episode 1, and it just kind of says like, oh yeah, during that time Nolan started to question his loyalty to the Viltrumites and show remorse for what he did. But to me, this scene, like him saving Alan and like kind of refusing to go along with his plan in the beginning, again, just really emphasizes that like that was the moment.
And it's doing a really good job of it.
Yes, 100%, TJ. That's a great way to put it. Show, don't tell. And it just really drives that point home. And again, like kind of what we talked about when Alan at the end of this tells him like, well, yeah, dude, like, even if you're not going to join us, like, I just didn't want to see you die. And it just, again, like really makes it more of a impactful, I think, connection between them. But I mean, again, it's just this scene is so great. I want more Battle Beast so bad. For people who may not know Battle Beast, again, since it's very quickly he's introduced, he's like literally his whole thing is just killing people. Like he is addicted to violence, and his only goal is to travel the universe and find someone that's strong enough to kill him. And so like he can finally die. And that's his whole thing. So just seeing him, like you guys said, floating off, fighting that Viltrumite, like that's what Battle Beast is all about, baby. And I hope that he comes back later in this season. But then we get the big reveal after, so they defeat the Viltrumites. Battle Beast flies off into space, and Alan's basically like, "We gotta get the hell out of here, dude. You know they're about to come." And we get the big reveal that they're not coming. And why aren't they coming? Because there's like 15, 20 of them, maybe. Like there's almost no Viltrumites, and that's like the big secret that they have been keeping.
Yeah, I thought he said 50.
Did he? I didn't know if he gave an exact number, but
he said, yeah.
Did he say 50?
Left.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we had exactly 50. So
Now there's
not
48.
having read the comics, what'd you say?
I said now there's 48. I don't know.
Yeah, kidding. True. Now there's 48. Maybe 47 because I think one died on Thraxa too. But not having read the comics, not knowing that was coming, how did that really surprise you guys? Because I mean, they've been setting up throughout all these seasons of, again, the Viltrumites are the biggest threat. Like they're coming to take over the earth. And we now find that that's why Nolan was like undercover, because they can't just come and take everything over. They don't have the numbers for that. Sean, I'll throw it off to you first.
Yeah, I was surprised because I felt like their threat was more vast, I guess. Not saying that like around 50 Viltrumites isn't a threat, because it is. Because as we've seen, even in this battle, it's like 3 against 2. And it's not like they almost die doing it, but it wasn't an easy win. So even if they have, I mean, Battle Beast is now floating into space, but now even if they have, you know, Alan, Omni-Man, and Invincible, and whoever's on Earth, like no one else on Earth is like close to the power level of Invincible. I mean, I guess maybe Oliver to some point, because obviously his powers are growing very, very rapidly. But at the same time, he's very inexperienced as coming to a hero. So it's like 3 against 50 is still pretty bad odds. You know what I mean? But I don't know. Like I am very interested to see. It gave you kind of a glimmer of hope in a way where you're like, oh, maybe this war is obtainable to win, even though it does still seem like it's a pretty tall ask. But, you know, with Thetis and the coalition planets, like maybe they have more tricks up their sleeve. Like obviously he is a former Viltrumite himself. So Omni-Man isn't the only one who is gone against their ways and tried to end their rule. It just makes it seem a little bit more attainable and possible, I guess. But I still think if it does come to Earth, it's going to be, you know, like look what just Mark and Omni-Man's fight did. It's going to be 10, 50 times worse, you know? Like,
yeah,
it's going to be a brutal battle.
So, yeah, 50 times. Yeah, exactly 50 times worse. But yeah, I mean, I remember when I read that moment in the comic, I was like, whoa, like that. I was not expecting that. And like you said, it just kind of gives us a little sliver of hope in a mission that just, like you said, seems just impossible. We see how powerful Mark and Omni-Man are. So imagining an army of them is just kind of unfathomable to even think of the destruction that could come from that. But TJ, what did you think of this moment? Again, did it really shock you? Were you even thinking that there was like something up with the Viltrumites, or was that just like not even on your radar?
No, that wasn't on my radar at all. And it definitely took me by surprise, because I've kind of always been sitting here wondering, like, how did they win? Like, is Mark going to achieve super Viltrumite? Voluptuous Viltrumite? I'm trying to think of something that starts with a
voluptuous Viltrumite.
Give me some alliteration, you know, like Super Saiyan. As I got Goku's and Vegeta's and multiple different Dragon Ball Z characters beside me here. I was wondering, like, how the hell are they going to do this? Like, does Mark just get like way stronger, where he is levels above his dad and kicks everybody's ass? Like, what's going on here? But the fact that there's only 50 left, you know, like that does maybe, and they're all scattered, like that does provide a lot more hope, and also makes you consider, like, well, is there even really an invasion coming? Like, we don't even have to take every single one out, as much as we just need to keep them separated, essentially. And my understanding, you know, is there are still multiple, I can't remember if this is something somebody's told me or if this is something they've said in the show, but There are still multiple Viltrumites who are a hell of a lot stronger than Nolan, still looming out there. And so this definitely doesn't negate the threat by any means, but like Sean said, it gives you a little bit of hope that you didn't have before.
Yeah,
Feels
and
more
this
attainable.
100%. And this moment really just kind of, to me, kind of not revealed, but like made me think of everything in kind of a different way. Because it's like before this, at least I didn't think of this. Maybe I just wasn't, thinking the right way. But it's like, yeah, the Viltrumites are so powerful. Why do they need Mark to take over Earth before they come? Like, why don't they just come and take everything over? Right. And it's like when I learned this, it like was like, oh, I didn't even think of that. But yeah, that makes sense. Why would they need this whole elaborate plan? So I'm super excited to see with that information, like you said, when are they going to tell that? Does Thaddeus know this? Obviously, he is an ex-Viltrumite, but maybe that happened after he left, right? So I'm very interested to see what happens once this information gets back to the Coalition and our other heroes. But that brings us to the end of the episode, and I know we have all seen the first 6, so we're just going to pretend like we haven't. And I just want to, based off this episode, you guys both kind of said that this kicked it up for you a notch. And, where do you, not necessarily where you think it's going to go, but you, Sean, alluded to like kind of the payoff of some of these things. Do you expect that we will get that payoff in some of these areas with the, allusion to the Viltrumites, all that? Or do you think we're going to be left with a massive, massive cliffhanger and not really get many answers to these questions? And do you have any other theories that you want to throw out there or something we didn't talk about?
I think it's a little bit of both. I do feel like we're going to get some sort of Viltrumite conclusion for the season of some sort. I would imagine that Omni-Man and Alan's next stop is the Coalition to kind of report back what's up, and because he hasn't even been back after seeing Mark and learning about the books and stuff. So I'm sure he's taken that and Omni-Man to the Coalition and being like, we're doing good. We're doing good. That's what I see. And I hope we
got
see
good
that.
updates.
Yeah. So I hope we see that at the end of the season. And interesting to see if they send someone else to Earth when Anissa threatened that, basically promised it, that it was going to happen. So I'm wondering if we're going to see that this season too. Time will tell, but I'm excited. Like I said, this stuff is like really ramped it up, and they only showed us 6 out of 8, and I feel like that was for a very distinct reason. That the last 2 episodes are just fucking crazy. So I'm ready. I'm ready to see what goes.
I'm just constantly impressed. We talked about this too, how much they're able to fit into an episode. Yeah. So like even though like I'm aware of where the story is at this point, really like I'm kind of in the same boat too. It's like, are they going to go this far with it? Are they going to cut us off here? TJ, what do you think? Again, do you got any theories of where we're going? Do you think that we're going to get payoffs to a lot of these things they're setting up, or are they going to be left as threads to keep us coming back for more?
I think we know they're going to give us more cliffhangers. They're going to give us more threads because we've seen the first 2 seasons of this show and it never stops. It's always coming. And honestly, like you said, it's astounding how many storylines they're able to cohesively keep going in this show at all times, because it kind of seems like when you're at a point where it's like, ooh, you're getting to the climax of a story, they're like, no, just kidding. Here's 14 other problems. We're going to get back to this one. And you're not going to be mad about it because you're going to be intrigued in what's going on the whole time. And it's like, damn, I guess you're right. Fine, all right, I'll wait. Then I'm just going to keep watching every week because you're right. It is incredibly exciting. And so I'm sure they're just going to be continuing to throw these different things at us. I will say episode 4 was my favorite episode of the 6 we got. Of the 6 screeners, episode 4 was my favorite of all of them. I think this was pretty darn close to a 10 out of 10 episode. I absolutely loved it. It did, like, Of the 6 we got, I think episode 4 is kind of where it peaked for me. But having said that, I think everything we've gotten through 1, 2, 3, and 4, everything we continue to get through 5 and 6 are truly setting up for just like an absolutely incredible last 2 episodes of the season.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to shock everybody, comic readers and casual viewers alike. Again, before we end this off, once again, reminder: go check out TJ's interview with Robert Kirkman because there's some really great insights in there. But I just got to shout out the team behind Invincible. It's so impressive how they translate it into animation. And we were just talking about how we're in such a great place of superhero animation. But in my opinion, like Invincible just does it better than everybody else. Like I've never seen a comic come to life as closely and also able to enhance its source material like Invincible does. And I'll take as many seasons of this show as we can possibly get. But before we get out of here, Sean, throw it off to you. Let the good people know where can they find you. I know you just released an Invincible article. What do you got coming down the pipeline? What can the people expect?
Yeah, you can find my writing at collider.com. I have a Cobra Kai season 6 part 3 ending explained. It's more of me just talking about the ending. There's not much to explain. It's not some crazy thing you really need to unravel. Each week I've been on a great streak of releasing Severance articles. So if you're liking Severance, I got a ton of articles on Severance. I just released one on Dexter. Original Sin, which I think has been very great. I have a few about Paradise, which is I know Ryan of Agents of Fandom also echoes the love
Paradise
for
rips,
Paradise.
dude. Oh my gosh.
Great show. And then I'll have my inaugural debut review for Agents of Fandom coming next week. And if you want to listen to me ramble more, you can check out Metalcore Nerds, metalcorenerds.com, any podcasting platform. You can find it all there. Every social media is just at Metalcore Nerds. You can hear me talking about pop culture stuff with dudes in bands. It's a fun time.
Everything Sean does is amazing. We've done this. Me and Sean did this show for last season on another channel, and I mean, if you're not checking out what he's doing, you got it. He's one of the best doing it right now. And TJ, I'll throw it off to you because you are obviously the leader of all of this great stuff we have here at Agents of Fandom. So I will let you give everyone the run. I mean, we basically have if you're watching something on TV, we pretty much have a show for it. So tell the people everything we got.
Absolutely. And if we don't got a show, we're probably going to have an article on it. So check out agentsofandom.com. We got lots of great stuff coming. I got some breakout pieces from my Invincible interviews, as well as my interview with Captain America, Brave New World director Julius Ona, coming out throughout the week. You can find the full interview up on the Agents of Fandom YouTube page. So like, subscribe, hit the notification bell because we got so many shows coming. Like you said, on Wednesdays, we break down the new episodes of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. On Thursdays, we break down the new episode of Invincible right here. Tonight, though, is a special Thursday because we're going to have another bonus live show breaking down Captain America, Brave New World, giving our immediate reactions, joined by Dave Gonzalez, author of MCU, The Reign of Marvel Studios. You can also find our review, Carlos Freites' review, on the back of that book. You'll see the Agents of Fandom right there. So go check it out. And tomorrow, myself and Rachel Leishman break down the brand new episode of Severance every week. So this week, episode 5, we will be joined by our last week's guest on the Invincible podcast, Rachel Tollison, as well as Leah Marilla coming back for the second straight week to talk about Severance episode 5. The Comic Corner with Fat Thor and Damon and AF comes every Saturday. And we are 3 weeks away from Daredevil Born Again. We're going to be doing a live show immediately after the episode every single week. Plus, we got some interviews lined up with some of the creators. So make sure you stay tuned for that as well. Smash the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell because we got lots of really good stuff coming.
I don't know how I would have ran out of breath even just going through that. Again, anything you guys want, we have it here at Agents of Fandom. Thank you everyone who tuned in today. And also too, next week, when you catch us next week, don't be afraid to throw some stuff in the comments. We love to talk to you guys. We love to engage. So if you ever have anything to say, don't be afraid to comment. But on that note, we will see you all next week.